In this lesson, we will discuss how to create and manage views. Before we discuss anything else, let me confirm. The synchronization of both environments is at its best. This means that if you already have views created in your CAD, you can view them inside Enscape as well. So you click on them inside the View Management panel, and it will take you to that view inside the Enscape viewport. And that's just not it, guys. If you create views inside Enscape, they are translated into your CAD as well. Before I can teach you how to be sensible towards composing views, let's learn how to quickly create views. It's very simple. Just open the View Management sidebar, click on the eye icon, and here is the View Management panel. Here are all the views from your CAD already visible in Enscape. At first glance, let's just say this is the view I want to create. Click Create View. Now there are some details here. However, without doing anything else, click on Create and your view will be saved with a default name and default settings. As mentioned earlier, all views exist on both sides, Enscape and in CAD. So here's the view we just created pushed into your CAD as well. Easy peasy. Now let's go back to the View Management panel and have a closer look. Go back to your view. Hover over it until you see an Edit button on the right side. Click on that. These are the same details you need to fill in when creating the view for the first time. And of course you can edit it later like we are doing just now. What do we have here? We can add the name here. Type it in, match it with the existing structure in your CAD, or simply create a new naming structure. You can label this view as favorite, which basically brings it into this additional list. For example, if you have 100 views and you label 5 of them as favorites, you can quickly view only those 5 in that list. So it is like a sort of a sorting structure to highlight important views and be able to open them quickly. However, favorites have a bit more to it, which we will discuss later when we will reach our lesson on standalones. You can remove it from favorites as well if you want to do that at some point. Next, right under the name field, we see this drop-down showing us the option to choose a preset. Now, presets are a bigger topic, and I want to deal with it in a bit more detail in the next lesson. But just to give you a quick definition, presets are templates for your visual settings. So let's say I have a view where I want to show a lot of clouds, some fog, I want to have some saturation, and more outlines or exposure in comparison to all my other views or my default settings. I want the settings to be very custom to that view. A preset is that template. I can create a preset for every view, or I can create a few presets that are distributed amongst various views. Presets also take into account projection types. That way, I don't have to reset each view every time. I can change settings for each of my views, change the visual modes for example as well, and then save these settings as a preset. Then, I can either create new views and add a preset to them, or I can create a new preset and add it to an existing view even after the view has been created. However, like I said, this needs dedicated attention, so we will cover this in the next lesson. For now, all you need to know is that presets can be saved and linked to your views in Enscape. If you leave this empty or unlink a preset, the view will use the current default settings. The camera settings are basically the position of the camera marked in the 3 axes. If you have saved a view already, you can undo camera changes to the last saved version. This goes for both the camera and sun settings. Then there is the sun position. This is quite important. By default, the Enscape sun is checked. In general, if you are navigating views created inside your CAD, they will be using the settings saved in the CAD. However, for that you have to uncheck this box to keep it like that. But what I recommend is to use the Enscape sun settings. It gives you a lot more edge in terms of customization and finding that right position for individual renders. It could be a little bit unrealistic because you can move the sun literally in any direction, but at the same time, that's the reason I like it, because you can manually adjust its position depending on what your render needs. That is all for the settings you have for each view. Once you are done with these settings, simply click Create or Save if you are editing an already created view. Let's look at some quick view shortcuts. The first thing you would need to know is how to reset your view to the last active view. So for example, I opened my project with Enscape, and this was the first view before I began moving inside the viewport. This will then be considered your last active view. So I will move a bit now. And now when I want to go to my last active view, all I have to do is to click the 0 key on my numpad area. There you go. This only works on the numpad, by the way, so make sure you have it active. Now the definition of last active view could change as well. At first, it was the default view I opened Enscape with. However, if I click on a saved view at any point, that view would become my last active view. So let me open this view here. And now when I move around and press 0 on my numpad, this will be my updated last active view. So it's either the default view you started Enscape with or your last opened view. This is a good shortcut to quickly orient yourself to a view you are familiar with. If you use the standard views inside your CAD, you might be familiar with other quick view options as well, such as views from all 4 sides, namely the north, south, east, and west views, as well as the top view of your complete project. Well, just so you know, you have all those standard view shortcuts in Enscape as well. All standard views function with the numpad keys only. Let's go through them one by one. Press 5 to view your site plan from top. This will be aligned to the north. Now if I want to see everything around my immediate site, this is fine. But I can also hide the context and then press 5 on my numpad again. The rule is that it will limit the view to whatever geometry is visible. So if I don't see the site context, it will show me whatever else is there in my view, which in this case is just the project itself. Press 2 to look towards the north. Press 8 to look towards the south. Press 4 to look towards the east. And press 6 to look towards the west. When combined with the orthographic mode and aligned to the true north of your project, these shortcuts can easily get your project elevation set in seconds. We will cover this in our lesson on projection modes. For now, try these shortcuts a bit and get used to them. These should be at your fingertips all the time. The shortcut keys to jump within previous and next views are the page up and page down keys. However, I will be completely honest, I was never able to get them working on my keyboard. Try it, maybe you will get luckier than I did. Let me know in the comments if it worked for you. Now when somebody asks me, how do I compose an amazing render? I am like, what do you mean, dude? I consider an amazing render anything that can communicate my design ideas well enough. However, the ground reality is that these are mostly new users, and what they mean to know is how to have all those tiny details added to the visualization. It is a very simple concept to understand though. Here is a rendering of a model where I have all the essential details, the walls, the materials, the entourage. Ideally, a render should not be more realistic than this in my opinion. This is where I could quote Mies van der Rohe. Mies had many designs based on his ideology of less is more. Now this is the approach I would take. But hey, let's not forget Mies also said God is in the details, which was directed towards the significance of paying attention to the small intricacies and finer aspects of our surroundings. Now, if you won't add those details to your model, you can't expect them to come by themselves. You can only visualize what exists in the model environment. Now, when I add tiny details to my model, this is how my render looks. Of course, I can adjust light and colors and materials, but that is the last step. The first step is the modeling bit. So add those details if you want to see an amazing render. In terms of composing the render, you just have to be a bit sensible about it. Find a few reference images from the web. Look at ArchDaily or some other resource. See how architects represent their buildings. For example, in this view, I see the building on a human scale. This is highlighting the scale of the building from a human's perspective. If I go up and take a view from here, this is an aerial or a bird's eye perspective of the building. It is significantly highlighting how it integrates in its immediate surroundings. And then there are other ideas where I can emphasize the form and the material of the building. I can also emphasize on entourage such as people. I can highlight how the building is being used, how people might interact with it, and what kind of traffic are we expecting when it's being fully utilized. So there are a million ways to set up your views. Just start thinking about what you want to highlight. Then work on areas that are visible in these views. Add details and polish these views a bit. That's the benefit of real-time rendering. You can decide what looks good and what does not work while you are making changes. Practice and practice till you are there. In the meantime, here is a view I had set up to inspire you. Let me know in the comments what you think. See you in the next lesson.